Bagus pula suaranya kan? Hah? Bisa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. First of all, let us praise the Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Because of His blessing, we can join today's program. Salawat and salam always be presented to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us from the darkness to the light. First and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Harif Nanda Atila, studying at International Program for Islamic Economics and Finance (ICF) batch 2023 from Magetan, East Java, Indonesia. As the Master of Ceremony, I want to say welcome to our second guest lecture on the topic of labor market condition and employment profile and trends of the Philippines. Organized by International Program for Islamic Economics and Finance (IPF), Department of Economics, Faculty of Economics and Business, and Master of Economics Program, Universitas Muhammadiyah, Yogyakarta. Now, I would like to show you the agendas we have arranged today. The first agenda is opening. The second agenda, opening remark by our Secretary of International Program for Islamic Economic and Finance, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, Dr. Dimas Bagus Wiranata Kusuma. The third agenda is our most desired guest lecture, Professor Dr. Maria Rizalia Teves. Affiliation, Dean College of Economics, Business, and Accountancy. Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology, which will be moderated by Mr. Pitra Prasapawidyapurna, SE MSc, as the lecturer of International Program for Islamic Economics and Finance, Department of Economics, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah, Yogyakarta. After that, we will have our Q&A session, delivery of elaboration by Mr. Pitra, and plaque and guest lecture certificate handover. The fourth agenda is closing. The last one will be taking picture together. Now, let us start the first agenda, that is opening, by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The next agenda is opening remark by our Secretary of IPF Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, Dr. Dimas Bagus Wiranata Kusuma. So, Dr. Dimas Bagus Wiranata Kusuma, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Maligayang pagdating. Welcome all.
Thank you.
Our International Program of Islamic Finance. First of all, thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, our God, who has been giving us sustenance. We are in the best of health and human. And secondly, I would like to welcome our guests, our Professor Dr. Teves from LSU Legal Technology University. Close to Prof. Teves, please. So today is quite honored to have you from this university. Given that Prof. Teves is this time receiving her food here at the Uniform.
In Indonesia.
In Indonesia, particularly, her first time. So hopefully your first time not will be the last time. Yeah?
Not the last time.
Not the last time. We'll be continuing coming and invitation from us to come here. So dear students and all participants, today Prof. Teves will share with us her humble ideas and thoughts the labor economics, including and liquidity. Between her experience in Philippines as lecturers, more than 30 years, that teaching in the MSU, that we did some, I think we need to know what the context of in the Philippines, the population is not small but large. 70 million the population, and 5% is Muslim. 5% of the country. And it will be different, of the labor economics managerial, how the policy is different by the government. And secondly, from on behalf of Pakistan, like our thanks and gratitude, and sincerely thanks to you. You are able to come here and then spend your time to stop by in Jakarta. Meanwhile, you are coming from Medan. So hopefully, our students here, not only from bachelor degree, but also master degree programs, also coming here, want to listen and learn from you. And also, my dear students, you are most welcome to share and comments and give some questions. To get some comparative experience, so analysis in case of Indonesia, related to that. With that, Prof, thank you so much again, and hopefully your coming here will be fruitful. So you are most welcome again next time. And maybe I'll be here hopefully one day and visit her university in Mindanao University, the south part of the that. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Mr. Dr. Dimas
Thank
Bagus
you.
Wirantakusuma for your opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, in the realm of academia, there are stars that shine brighter than others. Today, we are graced by the presence of such a star, a scholar excellence, a luminary in the field of economics, business, and accountancy, and a testament to the power of knowledge. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Maria Rizalia Teves. Can we have applause for Professor Dr. Maria Rizalia Teves? Which will be moderated by Mr. Fitra Prasapawidyapurna, SEMSC, as the lecturer of IPF, Department of Economics, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah, Yogyakarta. So, Mr. Fitra, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the time for master ceremony. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this bright morning, we have a very great guest here, Miss Teves, Professor Teves from MSU, Iligan Technology Institute, and we will hear how she present to us about labor economics in case of Philippines. And we should know that she was a lecturer from 1998, 1999. I'm sorry.
1989.
1989, right? 1989. So it's quite
I'm not young.
long time ago. Maybe you haven't born at that time, yeah. And she has been lecturer at that time. So we will see the experience that she has accumulated through all those years. And if you have any question others than labor economic, because she has other interests in research, she has about economic policy, and then agriculture and food security, governance, resource valuation, and migration studies. So without further ado, we can our guest lecturer, Ms. Tefes, to come forward so she can deliver her presentation. Fitra.
Good morning, everyone. Okay. I hope that you are in the best of mood and health to learn. Okay. So thank you very much for that very generous introduction, Mr. Fitra.
Yeah.
Okay. To our head of the, what do you call that? The Department of,
Department of Economics.
okay, Dr. Dimas, being the head of the Department of Economics, thank you very much for inviting me here to share what I can share. Okay, so I am really honored to come before you, to stand before you today to share with you something about the labor market in the Philippines, particularly the employment trend in the Philippines. Okay, we know as aspiring economists, you know that labor is one, if not the most valuable resource of every economy. In fact, countries really spend for or really invest for the improvement in human resource. Okay, so in the next few minutes, I will be, or we will be exploring the labor market of the Philippines. Okay, who among you has gone to the Philippines? No one? Who among you would want to go to the Philippines? Oh, you are most welcome. Wait. Okay. So anyway, I got, sorry. Wait a minute. I lost my slide. I have my, yeah. I have my notes here.
Oh.
Okay. So my topic, do I need to use this? Not anymore. You can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't need that. Okay. My topic is the labor market and employment profile of the Philippines. But before I will go or we'll talk about the labor market, let us just have a very quick tour of the Philippines. So you will know what the Philippines, where the Philippines is, and how what's the characteristic of the country. So the Philippines is an archipelago. This is the map of the Philippines. Okay, so just like Indonesia, it is composed of several islands, approximately 7,100 islands and islets. The islands are grouped into three major geographical divisions. We have Luzon on that part, and then we have Visayas, and we have Mindanao. So those are the three major geographical divisions. Okay, so each division, like the Luzon, the Visayas, and the Mindanao, each division contains several regions. Okay, so regions one, no, the northern portion belongs to Luzon. So Luzon has uh, six regions, including the National Capital Region. Have you heard of Manila? Yeah. Manila is the capital of the Philippines. We have the National Capital Region to include other areas apart from Manila. So the National Capital Region is part of Luzon. Then we have the Visayas, composed of three regions, the Eastern Visayas, the Central Visayas, and the Western Visayas. Have you heard of Cebu? No. Okay. So What other cities have you heard about the Philippines? Have you heard of Davao? No. Okay. So anyway, these are the three major island groups. Okay. So the Philippines boasts of its tropical maritime climate. I think the climate in the Philippines is more or less similar that of Indonesia because we are long-time neighbors. Although even if we are long-time neighbors, this is my first time to step into my neighbor's land. Okay? So we have tropical climate, not so hot, but not cold also. Okay? So, however, since the Philippines is situated on the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, we are always visited by natural calamities, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. And that is, in fact, one reason why we cannot really take off for our development because, like, every year we are visited an average of 20 tropical cyclones, some of which are very disastrous, taking lives, destroying properties, and destroying crops. So that's the Philippines. But anyway, Philippines is part of Southeast Asia. You know where Southeast Asia is? So this is, next slide, please. Okay, that is Southeast Asia, composed of 10 member economies, 10 member countries. So we have Philippines, Indonesia here, the yellow shaded map, Singapore, Malaysia, Brunei, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam, and Myanmar. Okay, so if you are, if you are aware, the Southeast Asian nations, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, was established when? Okay. Can anyone give me when was the ASEAN established? No. 1967, particularly August 8th of 1967. And who are the founding member countries? There are 5 founding member countries in the ASEAN. Yeah, that's good. Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and of course, your beloved country, Indonesia. And Indonesia is the biggest in terms of land area. No, you have a very vast land area, although just like the Philippines, it's archipelagic. No, okay, divided by bodies of water. Next, please. Okay, so let us know about the demographics of the Philippines because this has some bearing with the labor market later on. Okay, so the population of the Philippines is around 113 million. It's not even half of the population of Indonesia. What is the population of Indonesia right now?
170.
Something like 273
million.
million people. Okay, so we are not even half. Okay, and our population is growing at the rate of, next slide. Okay, it's growing at the rate of 1.74%, benchmark from year 2000 to year 2022. So not so fast. Okay. Then by age distribution, our population is relatively young. Notice that the population for the 65 years old and above is only 6.2%. We have a very huge, productive group of people, the 15 to 64 years old. They are the economically productive age group. It's 64.5%. And the young, of course, is just 29.4%. So the country is blessed with quite big, economically productive group who will be contributing to the country's economy. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, urban population is 48% of the total, meaning to say if you are going to imagine the spread, okay, so there is almost equal distribution of our population between urban and rural. So geographically, there is that equal distribution of the population. Next slide, please. Okay, so with our land area of around only 300,000 square kilometers, while yours, know what is the land area of Indonesia? It is 1.9 million square kilometers. Ours is only 300,000 square kilometers. So bringing our population density to something like 372 persons per square kilometer, much higher than the population density of Indonesia, which is something like 145 persons per square kilometer. So we are relatively densely populated. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay. In the Philippines, 96.5% of the population is literate. By simple literacy, we mean the ability to read and write. But if you include the ability to do simple arithmetic, there are only 91.6% of the population who are functionally literate. Next slide. Okay. This is the distribution of the population by religion. Okay. Unlike that of Indonesia, wherein around 90% of your population is or are Muslim,
Yeah.
in the Philippines, they are the minority. Okay. It's only 6.4% of the population, while the non-Muslim is 93.6%. And this Muslim population is highly concentrated in the southern part of the country, even southern part of Mindanao. Okay? So, talagang doon sila. Earlier, there was a mention about BARM, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao. They have created their own region, okay, among the Muslim provinces. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, regional distribution of the population. You have here, the highly populated region is Calabarzon, Calamba, Laguna, Quezon area. Okay, Batangas and Quezon area. So, I mentioned earlier about Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Luzon is up to Region 5. So, including NCR and the Cordillera Administrative Region. Okay? So, constituting 57% of the total population. And the Visayas gets 19% of the population. The Mindanao area gets 24% of the total population. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the Philippines is blessed with 149 cities at present. Okay, the largest of which, in terms of land area, we have Davao City, occupying 2,444 square kilometers in land area. And in terms of the number of people and the amount of assets, we have Quezon City as the largest. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the Philippine economy at a glance. Why do I have to talk about the Philippine economy? Because this has some bearing on the labor market. We cannot just study about the labor market and does not know about the performance of the economy. Okay, so we have here the performance of the economy, Philippine economy from year 2000 to year 2022. Okay, the bar down here means the level of the gross domestic product of the Philippines, of course, way below that of Indonesia at 2018 prices. Okay, so notice that over the years, over time, the amount of the gross domestic product at constant prices is increasing, except that for 2020. Do you know what happened in 2020? Okay, that explains why GDP of the country in 2020 plummeted. Okay, in fact, uh, in 2020, we had the first recession after several decades. Okay, so just imagine how much the COVID-19 pandemic affected our economy. Okay, then the line up there is the GDP growth over time, the annual GDP growth. Notice that except for 2020, growths are positive, although there is fluctuation over time. Like for example, in 2008 and 2009, here, okay, there is a deceleration of output. Output is not the growth is not negative, but there is a reduction in growth. Okay, notice the drop in the red line. So what happened in 2008 and 2009? Actually, during these years, okay, there was the global financial crisis. Although I am not saying that I am attributing the deceleration of output of the country to the global financial crisis, but the crisis has made our energy prices so expensive. No, the price of energy soared so high during this year, resulting to higher commodity prices as well. No, so there was soaring prices of energy and commodities, resulting to a decline in the growth. Okay, but the growth was still positive. No, positive pa rin. Okay. Of course, in 2011, what happened in 2011? Okay, in 2011, the country was visited by a lot of disastrous tropical cyclones. And we also had a newly elected president that time, okay, who was accused of underspending. So there were a lot of infrastructure budget which were not actually spent, no, for the implementation of the infra projects. Okay, so that is one reason why there was underperformance of the Philippine economy during 2011. And of course, you have made mention about what happened in 2020. No, so I don't need to elaborate on that. Just imagine that there were lots of lockdowns, restrictions in people's mobility, resulting to reduction in demand. And of course, a lot of people lost work and employment. Okay, so causing the recession in 2020. Of course, we are happy that the economy was able to bounce back up in 2011. No, 2021, I'm sorry, and until today. Okay, so the economy was able to bounce back. Notice positive growth in 2011 and 2021 and 2022. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, gross domestic product by industrial origin. In the Philippines, our economy is led by the service sector. Okay, our agriculture only constitute a small portion of our gross domestic product. So the value added from agriculture is small. And if you notice, there is almost no growth for the agriculture sector over time. but look at the service sector. It's really fast accelerating. Okay, of course, so also with the industry sector. But in terms of share of output and share of growth, it's the service sector that is leading Philippine economy. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so sectoral growth, the growth in agriculture, industry, and service. Notice also that for agriculture, the growth is really low. For the service sector, it's high, but look at 2020. It's both the industry sector and the service sector are heavily affected by the pandemic. Okay, in particular, for the service sector, our tourism industry really plummeted down. Okay, because of course movement restrictions. So the transportation industry also declined, no, including the tourism and hospitality industry. So under the service sector. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so here it is, no. In terms of average share to GDP in percent, our agriculture only constitutes 12.5% on the average, no, to GDP, but the service sector occupies 57% of the output. And in terms of growth rate, it's the service sector that is fast growing. Okay, our service sector or service and industry is really fast growing, particularly the introduction of BPOs. What is BPO? BPO is business process outsourcing. Okay, so we have a lot of professionals who are working in call centers, no? And in fact, we also have a lot of professionals earning income from online jobs. I don't know if it is common here, but in the Philippines, there are a lot of professionals who are not anymore applying jobs, seeking employment, but they make their own employment and they also employ others if they get clients from other countries. Okay, so that is how they earn, and they earn so much. They earn dollars, no? That is the reason why they are no longer motivated to seek for employment, because they are already earning much higher than the wage and salary that they could get if they get employed. Okay, so that is part of the service sector. Next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of the structure of output demand, you're all economics majors here. What are the components of demand? Macroeconomics. We have consumption, investment, government spending, and net export. Okay, so I think this distribution holds true for most of the countries in the world. Demand is driven by personal consumption expenditure. That's the biggest. Okay, and it is fast growing. Okay, then the orange line is for gross capital formation. What is gross capital formation? It is our investment. Okay, private sector investment. Okay, it is also higher but much lower than that of consumption, and it's also growing over time. The blue line is for government final consumption expenditure. Notice that, so we have very low spending for government. Our government is poor. Your government is rich in Indonesia. Okay? So we have here government expenditure just gradually rising over time. And then we have net exports. What can you say about the trade position of the Philippines? Since even before the year 2000, the Philippines is already incurring unfavorable trade balance of trade. How do you compute balance of trade?
Export.
Anyone?
Export.
Merchandise exports less merchandise imports. Okay, so notice that this is below zero, meaning there is trade deficit. Okay, the country has always been incurring trade deficit since time immemorial. Okay, so we have here the components of demand. Next slide, please. Okay, so household consumption expenditure constitutes 75% of the output, or it gets 75% share of the output, and it is actually growing at the rate of 4.7%. Okay. Government final consumption expenditure is growing at 6.1%, getting 11.6% share of GDP. Investment is 20% of GDP, and this is a good sign, no? The growth in investment is higher than all other components of demand. Okay, net export is a deficit, and it's it's getting worse actually. Okay, next slide, please. Annual inflation rate. You know what? When I step my foot in Indonesia, I was amazed by your place. No, I came over I think we arrived Friday. Last Friday, yeah. I was amazed by your place, so beautiful. No, we landed in Medan because we co-hosted a conference, international conference there. Okay, so I was amazed. And one thing more, I learned that the prices of commodities, particularly food, is very low. Okay, and our accommodation, we were staying in Emerald Garden Hotel. It's a good, very good hotel, no, very good services. But we were amazed that we were paying low. The same type of hotel and services in Iligan, for example, would cost us something like 6,000 pesos per day. But we paid an equivalent of only 2,000 pesos per day in Medan. Yeah, so we were saying, what happened? No, there's a very big discrepancy. There's a very big difference in the cost. Okay, and more than that, we were told by our counterparts in Medan that if you go to Yogyakarta, you will find that the commodity prices there are just half the commodity prices in Medan. So I was saying to myself, maybe I should live in Yogyakarta because the cost of living is very low. No, so maybe I will get rich if I live in Yogyakarta because the cost of living is very low, and they were telling us, do not fail to shop in Yogyakarta because prices are very cheap. Okay, so in the Philippines, prices are not cheap. Okay, and we have constantly fluctuating prices over time. Okay, so you see our prices are always fluctuating. We have higher inflation rate maybe than yours. Okay, so you're lucky. Maybe one of the reasons isn't it that Indonesia is producing oil, petroleum?
Yeah, but it only a small number.
Yeah, it's small in quantity, but at least you don't have to import everything. In the case of the Philippines, we import our petroleum from abroad. And you know, whatever happens abroad, it will really affect us. Don't you know that when we had our vehicle gassed up yesterday, I saw that the gasoline price was only 14,000 rupiah. US dollars per month for a family of 5. So if the family's income falls below 15 US dollars per month for a family of 5, that family is already considered poor or under poverty. Okay? Or individually, the poverty threshold is 28,872 pesos per person per annum, and that is equivalent to 516 US dollars per annum. below $516 per annum, that person is considered poor. Okay? So, who are the poor in the Philippines? Okay? According to statistics, we have the fisher folks, our fishermen, no? Something like 30.6% is the poverty incidence. Farmers, of course, 30%. Children and individuals residing in rural areas. Now, I have read a lot of literature saying that poverty is always a rural phenomenon. So people living in the rural areas are generally poor. And that is even the reason why there is always an exodus of people from the rural area to the urban, because they are thinking that there are a lot of lucrative sources of living in the urban area. Okay? And that would make the urban area congested, more congested, leading to a lot of urban problems because of that exodus. Okay? So in terms of magnitude, there are a lot of people in the urban areas who are considered poor. It's something like 13.67 million people. Of course, children and women. Why do we have to include children and women? Okay? Children and women are the most vulnerable individuals or group when there are conflicts. Okay, so can I have the next slide? Okay, so look at this, no? For children, women, by geographical location, most of them are concentrated in the BARM. BARM means the Bangsamoro Administrative Region for Muslim Mindanao. So you see, most of our brothers and sisters who are Muslims located in the southern part of the country are considered poor. And this is also where a lot of conflicts happen. Conflicts happen not just because there are terrorisms, no, but sometimes it's clan conflict. In Muslim, they call it rido. Rido means if one member of one family offends another member of another family, that other family who was offended will do revenge, but the revenge will not be on the one person, but revenge to the whole clan. So this clan will again make a revenge for the whole clan of this person. Okay, so that is one major sources of conflicts in these areas. But also, you know that when there are conflicts, children and women are the most vulnerable groups. Okay, so next slide, please. So what is the prospect of the Philippine economy in the immediate future? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I got these statistics from the ASEAN Plus 3 research office. Okay, so they see the Philippines to be leading the region, Southeast Asian region, in terms of growth. No? So in 2023, it is expected that the Philippine economy will grow at 5.10% and at 6.5% in 2024, leading all others. Okay, Indonesia will be growing or is projected to grow at 5% this year and at 5.2% next year. So it's a good picture for the Philippines, no? But of course, I am not saying that it will be realized. There are a lot of things to do for it to be realized. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now we go to the labor market condition and employment trends in the Philippines. Okay, This is the labor force of the Philippines. I already have presented to you the population of the Philippines. So you know that the labor force is just part of the population. Okay? So when the population is growing, we expect that the labor force also grows. Because by definition, the labor force consists of persons 15 years old and above, okay, who are capable of doing productive work. So over time, the labor force of the country is increasing. Next slide. Okay, average annual labor force growth rate is at 2.5%. Average labor force participation. Labor force is different from labor force participation. Okay. Okay. The average labor force participation is 64.1%, 78.5% for males, and 49.7% for female. I don't know what's the labor force participation for the females here, but in the Philippines, women also participate in the labor market, but not everyone, because most women who have children, young children, will stay at home to take care of the young. Okay, so comparatively, we expect that the labor force participation of women is smaller than that of the men. But there are also women who see higher opportunity loss when they stay at home, especially women who are holding higher positions in their jobs and earning so much. They would rather keep the work and hire someone else to take care of the young. Okay. Now, I don't know what's the practice in Indonesia, but in the Philippines, since we are predominantly Christian, there is what we call as empowered women. No? Our women are more empowered, specifically if they get high-paying jobs. So we actually do not have issues on discrimination by virtue of sex. Okay, so average employment rate, we have 92.9% for males and 91.3% for females. So you notice that it's not much different, okay, across gender. And we have average unemployment rate, of course, is 7.9% for both sexes. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's the trend of the labor force participation. It's always higher for males than females. Okay, next. Okay, so I'm showing this graph to show you the effect of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, we have this labor force participation rate at 61.3% on the average for both sexes, but it dropped to 59.5% during the pandemic. So this is what I told you. A lot of people, because of mobility restrictions, they lost their jobs. They simply stayed at home. No? So it's 59.5%. But the labor market was able to recover in 2021 when mobility restrictions were loosened. No, not anymore so tight. I don't know, how did you conduct classes during the pandemic?
Online classes.
Online classes. Okay. Same as we have there, we perform online classes. But of course, there are jobs which cannot be performed at home. No? So that's the reason why the effect of the pandemic is so disastrous to our industry and service sectors. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, estimated sex distribution, that is for August 2023 labor survey. For male, it's 59.18%, female 40.82%. So if you look at the composition of our labor force, there is balance, there is almost balance across genders. Okay, estimated employment rate for August 2023. This is for male and female. So there is not much difference again. Estimated unemployment rate for males is 4 and 4.9 for females. So there, discrimination in the labor market by virtue of gender or sex is not so apparent in the Philippines. Okay, so not much discrimination issue. Can I have next? Okay, so employment trend from before the pandemic and after the pandemic. Look at what happened during the pandemic. Okay, there was a sudden drop in the employment rate to 89.7%. But luckily, the labor market was able to recover when industries and businesses reopened again, no, when the restrictions were lifted. Okay, next. So unemployment trend. Okay, this is just complementing the employment trend. So the unemployment trend was declining over the years because the government was able to provide a lot of programs, no, livelihood programs, trainings under the TESDA training. There is an office designated to conduct trainings for out of school youth and for people who would want extra skill for them to be able to go abroad. Okay, so that's it. Next, please. Okay, employment trend by major sector. So here, I am trying to present which sector absorbs most of the workers in the Philippines. So notice this bar represents the number of people employed in each of the sectors. So the blue one is the employment in the service sector. So it's very clear that the service industry is absorbing most of our workforce, followed by agriculture, because in the Philippines, most of the agricultural activities are using the traditional method. So it's highly labor intensive. Okay, so that's it. No, so the agriculture sector is the next employer of the workers, and we have here the industry. Okay, so next, please. Okay, so that's it. That's the sharing. On the average, for August 2023, 57% of our workers employed are in the service sector. Only 18% are in the industry and 25% are in agriculture. Now, take note of the distribution because this has some bearing on productivity. You know in economics how to compute productivity. It's output per unit of the input. Okay, so our output is measured by the value added per sector divided by the number of persons employed in the sector. Okay, next please. Okay, so in what occupations are our workers employed? Okay, so what's the highest? Okay, here in agriculture. Okay, so some of them or a few of them are in managerial occupations. Here, no, that red one is 3.8%. Some are in the armed forces, which cannot be seen anymore because it's very small. And we have the professionals, 5.4%. So this includes what? Lawyers, doctors, no? Accountants. So they belong to the professionals. Then craft and related trade workers. Okay, that yellow one is 6.7%. Okay. Elementary occupations. These are the unskilled type of work. doing laundry jobs. These are the unskilled type of work. Or ambulant vendors, those vendors who peddle goods and services for sale. Next slide, please. Okay, top 10 highest paying occupations in the Philippines. So if you would wish to apply for work in the Philippines, so these are the top 10 highest paying occupation for 2022. So until now. So aircraft pilots, of course, not anyone can be pilots. Then we have software developers, your IT experts, no? Then mathematicians and actuaries. Okay. The figure here represents the salary in pesos. Okay. Then we have programmers and so on and so forth. Okay, next slide, please. Employed persons by class of worker, majority are wage and salary workers. Then we have self-employed without a paid employee. Now, those that I was telling you, those professionals who stay at home, do online jobs by themselves, wala silang employee, they belong here. Okay? We also have employers in own family-operated farm or business, the yellow one, there are only 2.1%. And there are some workers who are working without pay in own family-operated farm or business. In economics, how do you consider this? A worker working without pay in own family-operated business. This should form part of the implicit cost of the business. Okay? And that should form part of the total cost. No? The salary that the person could have if the skill or the time is employed somewhere else. Okay? So in economics, we call that the opportunity cost or the cost of a foregone opportunity. So there are also a lot of this in the Philippines, especially in farm business. Okay, employed persons by class, no, next please. Okay, employment and labor productivity by major sector in the Philippines. Okay, so you have here, yung bar is on the number of employed persons per major group, okay? And the line here represents productivity. So the highest productivity is on industry. I already told you earlier how the productivity is computed. It's gross value added of the industry divided by the number of workers employed in the industry. So notice that even if the service sector employs so much, it's the highest employer, but compared to industry, the gross value added is smaller. Okay, so still industry is the highest or has the highest productivity among all the sectors. The lowest productivity comes from agriculture, forestry, and fishing. Remember that this sector employs a lot, but the gross value added or the output only constitutes 25% of the total GDP. Okay, so that would also partly explain why people in this sector are among those who are poor. No, they are poor because they have low productivity. And remember that wages and salaries are often benchmarked on the contribution of the worker to the output of the company. So if you are not contributing much, you will not expect higher pay. Okay, so next slide, please. So employment is increasing over time. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is how I computed productivity. The value added per sector, no, here, total employment in thousands. So if I divide this by this, I'll get these productivity values. So of the three sectors, the highest productivity comes from industry. Employment is only 8,000, but the contribution to output is also significant. Okay? So people working in the industry are the most productive. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, one thing very good for the Philippines is we are suppliers, we are one of the top suppliers of labor in the global market. We have a lot of overseas Filipino workers, okay? So in 2022, we have almost 2 million Filipinos working abroad. 42% are males, 57% or almost 58% are females. Okay, so they're working by contract. Okay, 98.68% are contractual overseas Filipino workers. And because there are so many of them, they have contributed to our national income amounting to this figure in 2022. And this is growing at the rate of 30.5% per annum. So you see how much our OFWs are contributing to our income. And one thing good is when there are remittances from abroad, this is in dollars. So if they send dollars, that's an increase in foreign exchange. And that would make our peso stronger. Right? So when we earn more in dollars, more foreign exchange are coming in because overseas Filipino workers are sending dollars to their families. No, that will also have a benefit to the total economy, no, in the form of more foreign exchange, leading to a stronger currency. Okay? So average remittance per person per OFW is 100,000 pesos, 100,575 pesos. Okay. So next slide, please. So age distribution of OFWs. Okay, most of the OFWs are younger. Okay. 34 below. Okay. So they are very young. They are more aggressive to work abroad. Okay. The rationale here is when they are still young, they will save, no, they will accumulate income, and by the time they get old and they feel that they're already tired, they can go back home and invest whatever they have accumulated over time. So relatively young. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what occupations are our OFWs in? Okay, most of them are here. Elementary occupations, of course, we have a lot of domestic helpers in the Middle East. I don't know if there are OFWs in Indonesia. There might be some, no? Domestic helpers or what do you call this? Nanny? No?
Yeah.
Okay. So those are among the elementary occupations, and there are many of them. Okay. There are a few professionals. Because most of our nurses and doctors are flying abroad because they earn more abroad. So this is what we call as brain drain. No? There are a lot of experts, our engineers, the best scientists can no longer be found in the Philippines because they are working abroad. I don't know if that is the case for Indonesia, for our case, it's really an issue. No, our professionals are on exodus. Okay, next. Next slide, please. Okay, so where is the destination of our OFWs? So in Africa, we have 1% of our OFWs. In Asia, distributed as East Asia, Southeast, and South Central, including Indonesia here, and Western Asia. So you have a total of 80.8%. So most are in Asia. Okay. Then Western Asia, we have Kuwait, Qatar, and so on and so forth, constituting 8.2%. And we have Australia and Europe. So most are in Asia. Maybe we have a lot of OFWs in Indonesia. I just don't know. Okay. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. What is the origin, geographical origin of our OFWs? Majority of them comes from Luzon because they are the most proximate. They are already near the Manila, near the capital region. Okay, so I think that's the end of the slide. Let me just give you some summary. Okay. Just a few points that I would like to stress. So in summary, the global financial crisis of 2008 had a limited impact on the Philippine economy due to its relatively insulated financial sector and a growing BPO industry, business process outsourcing. It's really growing. The government stimulus packages and monetary policies played a crucial role in maintaining economic stability during the crisis in 2008. Okay. Then throughout the late 2000 and early 2010, the Philippines experienced consistent economic growth, often exceeding 6% per annum. The Aquino administration in 2010 to 2016 also introduced governance reforms and pursued infrastructure development, contributing to the robust economic performance of the country. The next administration, the Duterte administration, focused on an ambitious infrastructure development program known as the Build, Build, Build. Have you heard that? The focus of the Duterte administration was to build a lot of infrastructures, highways, diversion highways. I think also railway. I saw in Indonesia you have a very good railway system. We do not yet have it in the Visayas and Mindanao. And the Duterte administration, because Duterte came from Davao, he is trying to build a railway. Okay. Then the COVID-19 pandemic, which began in 2019 and continued in 2022, had a severe impact on the Philippine economy. So lockdowns and restrictions to various sectors, including tourism, manufacturing, and services. So the economy had a recession in 2020. Okay. Then the Philippine economy has gradually bounced back from the pandemic-induced downturn, and it is seen to lead ASEAN countries in terms of growth for 2023 and 2024. Nevertheless, this is what I was saying earlier, brighter prospects as projected by AMRO and requires a lot of things to do. No? So these brighter prospects for the economy continues to depend on government stimulus. In our country, I was saying that our government is poor. So how can this government stimulus really push, pump prime the economy? Okay. So government stimulus and effective implementation of infrastructure projects those that were already started. Successful implementation of the social reforms and poverty alleviation program, and the ability of the country to mitigate the effects of climate change. Are you experiencing the impact of climate change here? Yes. Okay. So in the Philippines, there are a lot of extreme weather events. And that is even the reason why the tropical cyclones that are entering the country have become more disastrous. Okay? Yan. The economic trajectory in the coming years, whether or not we will be able to achieve whatever was projected, okay, would be influenced by these factors as well as the global economic conditions. Now we know that we have the conflict in Russia, and we have the recent, by the month of October, the conflict in Palestine and Israel. So this will surely affect us, the Philippines, because we also have a lot of OFWs there. Okay. So on the labor market, the labor market and employment of the Philippines for the years 2000 and to 2022 have been influenced by various factors, including economic growth. That is why I presented the performance of the economy, demographic changes, government policies, and global events. So here is the summary of the key trends and developments during the period under consideration from 2000 to 2022. So number one, we are lucky that we have a lot of OFWs. But on the other side, that is causing us brain drain. Okay? So one of the most prominent features of the Philippine labor market is a significant number of OFWs. The Philippines has been a major source of labor for countries worldwide, particularly in the Middle East, North America, and Asia. Remittances of the OFWs have been a vital contributor to the Philippine economy, serving as a lifeline for many families. Okay? The government has implemented policies to protect the rights and welfare of our OFWs and to promote their financial literacy and entrepreneurship. One issue about our OFWs is they are not financially literate. So they don't know about the concepts of savings and investment. So they earn money there, they send money here in their families and splurge. Okay? So no concept of savings and investment. Okay, so the government this time has implemented policies to protect the rights and welfare of OFWs, to promote their financial literacy through financial literacy program and entrepreneurship. About our BPOs, the business process outsourcing industry has been a major driver of employment in the Philippines. The country has become a global hub for call centers, back office operations, and other outsourcing services. The industry has created millions of jobs for Filipinos and provided opportunities for skilled workers. It has spurred urbanization, with major cities like Manila and Cebu experiencing rapid growth. So government initiatives. The Philippine government has implemented various programs and policies to address employment and labor market issues. So we also have employment and labor market issues. Okay. So there are already government initiatives for this. So initiatives like the Build infrastructure program aim to create jobs and stimulate economic growth. Additionally, the Department of Labor and Employment has worked on labor market reforms and provided support to job seekers through job matching and training programs. Okay, so in conclusion, I know that you're waiting for this. The Philippine economy experienced significant ups and downs over time, with periods of growth, challenges, and external shocks. So by external shock, I'm referring to any event outside the country that will have impact on the local economy. While it demonstrated resilience in the face of crisis, there remain persistent issues related to inequality and poverty that required ongoing attention and policy solutions. So notice that our poverty is still an issue. Okay, the country's economic future would depend on its ability to navigate to the post-pandemic recovery and address these long-standing challenges. Okay. Consequently, the labor market and employment condition in the country have been influenced by various factors, including economic growth, demographic changes, government policies, and global events. But since output is expected to grow as projected significantly, and knowing that the service sector is the biggest contributor to output growth and employs the biggest number of workers, the acceleration of this sector means more employment opportunities will be created. So policies should be customized to fit in the existing labor market condition. Okay, I think that ends up my sharing. Do you have questions? A lot? Okay.
Okay, give applause to Miss Cafes. And then now we will have a question. Yeah, so it
Yes.
will be only 3 questions. Yeah, so who has question, please raise your hand and I will arrange it. 1 from here, 2 from the middle, and the last one. The third question, anyone?
No more. Dalawa lang.
No? So maybe we will hear for the first question first. Come from the participant in the right side, please. Please introduce yourself first.
Hello everyone, my name is Lisa and I'm from IPH 21. Because now we're talking about like labor in Philippines and I'm consider is there any wage gap or wage inequality between urban and rural area in the Philippines. And how is the government addressing?
Okay, so we know that poverty is a rural phenomenon. Most of those residents in the rural areas are the farmers and the fisher folks. Okay, so the government is actually having programs supporting agriculture, although our agriculture is less productive because it has not achieved economies of scale. Why? Because our farmers are owning only small areas of land and they are cultivating individually. So economies of scale could hardly be attained. But the government is, through our land bank, it's a government-owned bank, is supporting our farmers through uh, access to financial capital, no? To help them, and hopefully if they are just able to invest into their agricultural activities, but making it more advanced, no, not the traditional way of doing agriculture. Probably the agricultural sector will be able to increase their productivity and income. Okay.
Okay, second one.
My name is Apajin. I'm from I want to ask about the disparity of the economic growth in Philippines.
Disparity.
Yeah, the differences. Because from what I've seen from some of the charts
Slides.
in the slides, that I see that Luzon is the number one that was the highest number there. As we are about take an example here in Indonesia, you can see that the economic disparity growth rate mostly focuses We experience it here in Java. We went to like a part of culture in Canada. So I want to ask about how would you choose the parity of the economic growth in Java? Like if you are about to compare results with the others.
Okay, thank you for that question. Actually, it's not just the growth that has greater disparity, but also the standard of living. Most of the poor are in the south, not especially in particular Mindanao. Okay, and the government is trying to increase its investment and projects and programs in the other parts of the country outside of Luzon, outside of Metro Manila. Okay, and that is one example of that is what former President Duterte was doing. Most of the infrastructure investment was placed in Mindanao. And we were actually happy that uh, one of the presidents of the Philippines came from Mindanao. So yeah, it's Duterte because we were really expecting that more investment will be plowed in to Mindanao. Yeah, he's from Mindanao. Have I answered your question? Okay.
Okay. One more question, please. Oh, no? Okay. If there are no questions, then there is our final remarks from Ms. Tefes. Oh, one question. Okay. Please raise your hand up or okay, please.
Yeah. From Bali? From Africa. Yeah. 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 They're not part of the NGO. NGO means non-government organization. They're not part of the NGO, but they are really there as contract workers. Just like we have OFWs in the Asia, in America, they are there to work for contract, not as members of UN or whatever non-government organization. They are there to work. But Africa is very big, no? And I don't know in particular which part of Africa. Okay, have I answered your question, ma'am? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, then any more? No? Okay. If there are no questions, those all for the presentation from Ms. Tefes. Any last remarks from Ms. Tefes before we close?
Yeah, I'm glad to have been given the chance to share with you, and I hope that you were able to pick up something. Yeah, I don't have much data for Indonesia, but I could only compare a few, like your population, no, your population density, because Indonesia is so big. We're not even 1/6 the size of Indonesia, but we have a population also of more than 100 million. Okay, so in terms of density, we are so dense. And when I was passing through your no through your place yesterday when we had lunch somewhere out there, I could see that you really have a vast area of land. No, you are so blessed that you have these resources, and I could even see that your corn are planted in irrigation areas. We do not have like that in the Philippines. Yeah, and your farm is really so huge, so vast, and I was thinking, we should have
Okay, thank you for the time. So here I will like telling you some close remarks. I mean that it is a conclusion for what Mr. Tefes has said. Yeah, so we can say that it's not too different between Philippines and Indonesia. There are several problems that they have in case of labor, in case of economics, but the things that we can take is that Philippines has a less problem in a gender problems in labor economics, while Indonesia we have still face about those gender participation problem, and then but Philippines face about trade deficit while we are having a trade uh, surplus. So it's a little bit different as well in economic terms. Yeah. And then the productive sector is industry. I think it is almost the same. Yeah. And the least one is agriculture because we still use a traditional system. So it's the same as well between Indonesia and Philippines. And then another thing that's it's the same is that government try to improve the infrastructure. Yeah, we are still trying in improving the infrastructure, and it's the same even though in Philippines they are still trying in building railways, but in Indonesia in some places we still trying it as well. So we are the same basically. And another thing maybe yeah all of the things that we have discussed before about the problems in pandemic is the same but the problem of unemployment it's too far. Maybe Indonesia unemployment rate is quite high because the number of population is yeah high as well. We have more than 250 millions, so the problem of unemployment is quite severe in Indonesia. So that's all our discussion, and I will give the time to Master of Ceremony. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Now it's the time of flag and guest.
Mana kamera? HP. Itu tuh. Maju langsung. Tengah. Oh, oke.
Mana mas? Mana dulu nih?
That's
Mungkin ini dulu.
Get off. This is down.
yeah. Oh,
Second one is the batik. Batik from email. You can just make your size. Yeah. And last one, no. Same one. Okay. Thank you so much.
thank you so much.
And take picture together. From the class here. Everybody stand up. Yeah. Take picture here together. And make it a little. Yeah. So
Dari depan sana kan?
sedikit sana ya.
Iya.
How long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching since 2020. Uh, yeah, since 2020. If it is for a professional one, I mean that the under the contract, it is 2020. But I've been an assistant since I was undergraduate.
Oh, you're very young.
Yeah. I think you've been lecturer as well since you were young.
Yeah, I started actually my teaching career when I was 21.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the same. Quite the same.
But I'm already.
Bayar dulu, mana nih? Biar fokus. Oke. One, two, three. Okay. One more. One more. One, two, three. One, two, three. Okay, one more. One, two. Video one. UMY, Young and Global. As usual. Young and Global. One, two, three. UMY.
Young and global.
Thank you, bro. Young and Global. You also young, bro. Young.
Oh, sama Pak. Oh.
Asalman ngajar lagi.
Enggak, Pak. Hari ini agak tenang. Hari ini agak tenang. Yuk, sama-sama.
Apa? Ininya.